like the time that her cousin Frances, when he called Atticus a nigger lover, she felt defensive, and she like really feels like love with Atticus, and she very much adores him and looks up to him. And then it also shows that when she punched him, that she's spur of the moment and she doesn't really think about her actions or the consequences, that she just acts on impulse.
By the end of the book, she learns to not stereotype and to not judge a book by its cover. Because in the beginning, she characterizes Boo Radley as this dangerous person when she's really only heard rumors. And by the end, after Jem breaks his arm and she's talking to Atticus about the book The Grey Ghost, she basically describes the plot of Mockingbird, which is, she has a quote that says, these characters were trying to chase this person, trying to find out who he is and what he's like, and by the end they realize that he's really nice. She learns by the end to not take things at face value and to not judge a book by its cover.
Got the birds to talk with.
Well, I feel like this novel portrays women in positive and negative ways. So you see Calpurnia, and she acts like a mother figure for Jem and Scout, since their mother died when Scout was 2. So she is portrayed as positive, since she kind of teaches them, guides them, as seen in the church scene, when she teaches them that to set yourself as equals and not put yourself above others. But then you see Stephanie Crawford, who's portrayed as negative, because she just goes around town and she gossips about everything, all the news.
I think that the majority of the characters in To Kill a Mockingbird, the female characters, were portrayed in a really negative way. A lot of them were reduced to just like stereotypes, like Miss Stephanie Crawford, who was like known as the town gossip, and like Miss Dubose, who I know was like a strong character and showed Jem and Scout that real courage isn't just a man with a gun in his hand. But she still was like a hateful old lady and who was like unwilling to change her ways. So I think that a lot of these characters had the potential for being something really great, but they just weren't mapped out well enough.
A person's priorities really define their character. For example, Atticus Finch kind of takes on the responsibility in the community to stand for what's right, though it might not be the social norm yet, or it's not really acceptable in this town where they live in. Whereas Mayella, who accused Tom Robinson of rape just to rid herself of her guilt, really shows that she wants other people, she wants to go along with what other people think, and she's not really confident enough, and she's fearful of how that will affect her, and that really defines how selfish she is.
I believe that Atticus Finch is considered one of the heroes of American literature because he basically just represents the moral backbone of all of make-home society. For example, he helps a black man when he knows he'll lose. He has tender yet mature relationships with his children, and he never fails to do what's right, even though he knows that it probably won't go his way. Also, Atticus looks for the best in people, like with Miss DeBose and Mr. Ewell. He easily forgives, and I can't help but think that his audience is moved by his stoicism and justice as he defends Tom Robinson and really just refuses to change his mind at any time in the novel, whether he's outside his home or inside his house, and I think that makes him a big hero to society, since there aren't many people like that today.
A beautiful castle should paint with the moon.
I think the most common consequence for challenging social order is isolation. It can make someone either a hero or an outcast, like it did to Atticus during the Tom Robinson case. However, being noticed isn't always negative. Being brave enough to stand up for your beliefs can often influence others who have the same uncommon views as you to stand up for what they believe in, like Mr. Cunningham did in the story. Though challenging social order can often cause an uproar, sometimes it's necessary to bring about a much-needed change.
I vow that my love will never.
Literature can serve as a vehicle for social change because it puts ideas and thoughts into words. Because sometimes you can't exactly see the idea of things until it's actually blatantly showed to you. And it also helps people reflect on the idea itself. So like for racism in To Kill a Mockingbird, she gives ideas of events and examples, so it makes actual people like reflect, say if they've done anything like that in their lives, it makes them like really take into account what they have done.
I don't think the book should be banned because it teaches you a lot about how you should look into see things from other people's perspectives and how racism affects society. Even today, there is racism in our society. If you look at a racial dot map of just America, you can see towns that have roads that separate one race to the next. And so I do not think that the book should be banned.
It really reflects how people are very small-minded today with the stereotypes and things that people have a set category for how things are, how people act, and people's roles in everyday life. Take Tom Robinson, his trial, for example, when he was determined to be guilty, and they put the word of a white man who was very slothful and very dishonest above that of a black man simply because of the color of their skin, and the stereotype that black men were all liars. And it really ruined the life of an innocent man, and that can still be seen today, and it really diminishes the creativity and imagination we have in our world, and leads to people having a bad attitude towards one another and leads to contention and animosity.
I believe that Harper Lee gave her book the title To Kill a Mockingbird because her town of Maycomb was basically a mockingbird, and by that I mean that mockingbirds are birds that basically mock and they imitate what they hear, and I feel like Maycomb society is basically one big mockingbird. Everybody just imitates what they hear. They spread rumors about each other. I feel like a lot of people in the town, like Mr. Ewell, imitate a mockingbird in racism, violence, and meanness, but a lot of them have just been raised that way because they really don't know the damage that they're doing to other people. They're just saying and doing the things they've learned as they've grown up. So in a way, I think Harper Lee means to represent Maycomb as basically a mockingbird. So basically, while it's important to stand up for rights, it is important not to be too unkind to a mockingbird because they have only grown up reproducing the sounds that they've heard, just as Maycomb society does.
I believe that Harper Lee tells the story through the voice of Scout simply because Scout is young and innocent, and she hasn't been exposed to the same social situations that someone such as Atticus, who has an influential role in society, would be. Her morals haven't really been influenced by her community's views of things yet. And it also gives Harper Lee the chance to have her character grow and develop and show the effect that racism and discrimination has on someone. Using Scout as a narrator is like starting with a blank piece of paper, and it really makes it clear to the reader the marks that racism and discrimination would have on someone.
Of the book, he's very aggressive, and he's seen as like a mysterious character who's like kind of in the background and stays away from like social anxiety, like places where he can get social anxiety. But like at the end of the book, he does relay to that kind of aggression, but it's only because that's the only way he knows how to like defend someone. And so it makes him, to me, a more sympathetic character in my eyes, because he's still trying to help, he's still trying to do the right thing, but that's the only way he really can protect and do the right thing is by being evil.
I'm going crazy.
I think that Bob Ewell is the most responsible for the death of Tom Robinson. It is because of his abuse towards his daughter that Tom was committed for a crime that he didn't commit in the first place. It's also because of Mayola's fear towards him that she didn't come forward with the truth. I believe that Tom is also very responsible for his own death because if he hadn't tried to run from the prison, there was still a slim chance that he could have lived. Mr. Gilman and the jury were the least responsible for his death because they were strongly influenced by the society's views of things, and they didn't convict Tom immediately.
You have really got the best of me. I love